Well, hello, sailors. What's new in the young world? Hope you are well. Today in English, we have an action packed agenda. The first item is the messy room writing. We're going to go through a little rubric rundown. Make sure you have all the goods, and then I'm going to give you about 7-10 minutes just to make sure that you have what you need highlighted, color coded, and that's just a key to you. Do I have the necessary items, the criteria that is on the rubric so I can earn a big fat A on this first piece? And you should be getting sick of this bad girl. We've spent a lot of time looking at your fireball word choices, amazing show versus tell ideas, and so now it's time to submit. New adventures in writing today is we're going to look at organizational structures. Yes, your fireball word choices, they matter so much in your ideas of showing versus telling in the details. But we also have to give structure to that. It has to make sense. It has to have a topic, supporting details, a closing, whether you're writing a description, whether you're writing an argumentative piece. And so we're going to have a few notey notes today on different types of organization. And then you get to practice that with quizzes.com. That's ungraded just for practice. And then we close today with a little controversial issue. Should students wear uniforms? And I will show you what my nephew's school uniform that he wears to St. Mary's and versus what my kids wear. And we're going to tune in with some teenagers and see what they think, get their pulse on it. But our ultimate goal is, can we identify how the organizational structure of a piece of writing, like how that writer communicates his or her thoughts and ideas? And then we're going to take a side of an argument and identify reasons to support our choice. So this week, we're going to be talking about clothing, uniforms versus, just freewheeling with your style. And then tomorrow, we're going to get into a debate on name brands. Are they worth the big money for those brand names? Does a label really matter? So at this time, I'm going to give you a second. I'll pause, and I want you to pull up your messy room writing. Go for it. Okay, here's our little self-assessment, and you're going to tune in with each one of these little items to see if you have it. First of all, make sure there's no little red squiggly lines showing that you just totally blew through all your crazy inventive spelling. This is a polished piece, and it needs to be edited, so make sure you do a little spell check, go through, make sure it looks good. Second, we want to make sure that your piece is double spaced and aligned over on the left. So in Google Docs, you'll look at how your piece is formatted. Alignment is under format, and you can make sure things are over on the left. So that's under alignment. And then also line spacing. When you click on that, you are looking for double when you're creating your piece. So line spacing, double, okay? When you're aligning our piece, we're aligning it over on the left-hand side. Only your title should be centered because that's big, bad, and important. Okay, so those are just some formatting things. 2 proper nouns. We said proper nouns at pizzazz. So are you talking about Oreo crumbs? Capitalize the Oreo. Are you talking about maybe some Cheez-Its crumbs smashed into your Dell computer keyboard, right? So check that out. Your proper nouns are capitalized, and if you want, you could change the font color so they really show up. Okay, I'm just going to go through this little rubric rundown here, and then I'll pause it and you'll have time to do a check. The appositive, that is a sexy, sophisticated sentence structure we have learned to add a little show versus tell. It is where you have a noun, your subject, my room, and then a noun phrase. My room, a dark abyss, holds my homework for ransom. My room, a toxic wasteland, looks like an atomic bomb went off. Okay, so you have the commas in the right place. You may underline. You've used those word choice help sheets. Adjectives, verbs choices, they're very strong, they're lively, fireball word choices, that's a big component on the rubric. And then some figurative language. This is where maybe use onomatopoeia like a drip, drip, drip of something leaking, like your Gatorade bottle overturned on your nightstand and dribbling down the side. Or maybe you do an exaggeration. Like I said, it looked like an atomic bomb had gone off. Yes, you can have your appositive here count as a metaphor. My room, a dark abyss. So that counts. That means you get to highlight the dark abyss. So you just need 2 types of figurative language. A simile using like or as, a metaphor, maybe you exaggerate. You know what exaggerations are. Your mama so. Okay, you get the idea. At the end, you use a clincher sentence to tie it together. So not just, and then I woke up from a bad dream. My room is clean. Okay, that's lame. I don't know. Maybe all of a sudden the guys with hazmat suits come and bust down your door with this enormous suction tool, and they're ready to like suction out all the rot from your room. Okay, that would be awesome. Like something like that. And then writer's secret, we learned this from our girl, Miss McCaskey, a title. You do not have to create a title out of thin air. You have written so many neat descriptive phrases in this piece, harvest that. Maybe somewhere along the line you called it a ravaged war zone. Boom, that becomes your title. Here on this piece, I see I use Dark Abyss. That would be a sweet title, okay? The Chamber of Doom, whatever you want, okay? So I'm going to give you 7 to 10. Go through this list. When you feel like this bad girl is done, you may turn it in. It's not due until tomorrow, so you still have tonight to work on it. If you're all set and tidy with it, then you get to read, all right? So get cozy either with your writing piece or with reading. Teachers, we can pause. All right, we are going to get into our next little mini unit of writing. We've talked about the word choice as a trait of writing with fireball word choices. We've talked about ideas with showing versus telling. Well, now it's time to give some structure to that. With your messy room writing, you used what is called, whether you knew it or not, spatial organization, and that is just the order of appearance. You walk into your room and maybe you start with the wall and then the nightstand, and what's all crushed into the bed, what's on the desk. So you describe, maybe kind of from left to right what's in this room. There's a lot of different ways that writers organize. So today, tomorrow, and the following day, this will be our learning target. The organizational structures of a piece, how we do that, why it's important. So I'm going to give you a little scenario. We've got 2 kids, Logan and Jake. They are both assigned an essay. Let's say it's the messy room essay if you want, or an essay for social studies. They take different approaches. Logan reads the topic. He brainstorms some ideas, so he just kind of like thinks about it. Maybe he jots down a quick list on a piece of scrap paper, or maybe in just like a Google Doc, just a quick little bulleted list, kind of decides, organizes it, what's going to go first, second. And then boom, he launches in and he starts writing. Kid number 2, Jake, he just starts writing. Okay, how will their papers be different? Logan versus Jake, they have a different process as they approach their piece. How will their papers be different? So today I posted for you a little Google question, and let's take a look. That's where you will respond. How will the 2 writers' essay be different? So just put a couple key ideas there, and then when you're ready, you can turn in your response. I will go back to the question, okay? Teachers, you can pause and allow students to respond to that Google question. Okay, so how will they be different? A lot of people think, and most kids respond, that Logan's essay will be a bit more organized. Like he might capture his readers right away with a strong lead, and then he'll have a place to go with it. He'll know what his first point is, his second point, what descriptive words, phrases he wants to use, or what if it's a descriptive piece. If it's a story, he'll go in chronological order, what happened second, third. If it's like this awesome fishing story about catching the big one this summer at the pier with his grandpa, and then this happened, and it was pulling on my line, and I said, "Grandpa, help out," whatever. So he'll have details. And it might be easier for him to write it because he kind of planned it out for us. Boom, boom, he just creates it. Jake, he just starts writing. And if we don't plan, we tend to sort of peter out with our momentum, our ideas. Our writing starts to appear very random. Oh yeah, and this other thing happened. Oh yeah, and then this, the end. Okay, so it's not very well developed. It might be random. And it might be difficult to write. We might hit a roadblock because we haven't created for ourselves a roadmap of where to go in our writing. I like to say this. I like to say that the quality of an essay is determined before our pen even hits the page. Now that seems a little bit cray-cray. Like before I even start typing, how good my essay is already determined. But it is. It's all of that thinking. It's all of that planning. That's what makes your piece have structure and makes the message clear for the readers. When I think back to college, I had a class my senior year. In this class, it was my senior thesis, and I had to write a paper. The class only had 1 grade for the entire course, and it was this paper, and we had 3 months to write it. And I remember I spent about 2.5 months just doing all my research, my note taking, my outlining, my planning, and I left myself just about 2 weeks to write that bad girl. And that seemed crazy, but when I sat down to write it, it just boom, it just flowed together. I knew exactly what my first, second points were, what was going to be on page 15 and what was going to be on page 25, right? Ended up being about a 30 pager. And I did well, right? Even got some prize money for that thing. So planning is really important. And it's okay if things occur to you as you start writing and you add those details in, or you go back and change your word choices, of course. But you need to have your main message, the heart, maybe your claim, your evidence, your points, all figured out before you just begin. So it's not just this random mess of like this colossal brain dump that doesn't make sense for your readers. There's a lot of different ways that we can organize, right? Some kids, I watch them, they like to make like a web and they're drawing bubbles and circles and connecting them. That might be you. That's cool. Some kids divide their paper into like different quadrants. Okay, this is my claim. Here are my 3 little pieces of evidence or reasoning that's going to go with it. That's cool. We will use outlining this year. That's a really important skill. But I like to just start with making a list. Just make listing stuff, just bullets, right? With the messy room thing, we used a Google Drawing. It was like a picture, a sketch. Sometimes that helps, and we label things. Sometimes you might not write anything down at all, but you still plan by making a movie in your mind, by doing some thinking, by talking to someone. So just mentally, you might have an awareness, a plan of what your main points are going to be. And that's really important. So we're going to move into this trait, and this trait is called organization. And what is it? Organization is the structure of the writing. It is the arrangement of ideas. It means your writing has a strong lead, some supporting body paragraphs or sentences, depending how long it is, and some type of conclusion. It lets the reader know what your main points were and ends with some feeling, like a so what. And also a lot of transition words to guide your readers along, like first, second, but we'll get into some sexier ones this year, like moreover, or furthermore, or therefore, or to continue. Okay, so at this time, we are going to pull up our writer's notebook. Okay, and it's time now. We set your first several entries up for you, and now we're going to kind of continue on making our own. So pull up your writer's notebook, and you can put the date here, and we're just going to call this entry organization. Boom. So I will pause and pull up your writer's notebook, please. Thank you. Okay, so let's call organization. And what is organization? Organization is the structure of the writing. It means that your topics are arranged so the writing makes sense for the reader. So I'm going to have you write that. Organization is the structure of the writing. It means the topics are arranged so it makes sense. Whoop, I zoomed in too much. So it makes sense for the reader. Okay? Organization is the structure of the writing. All right, hope you can see that. So I'll leave it there so you can get that note down. Organization is a structure, topics arranged so it makes sense for the reader. Teachers, you can pause so kids can get that note. Okay, continuing, we are going to take a quick note on the different types of organization that there are. There's many different organizational structures that writers use. So our notes will just be, what kind of structure is it and what does that mean? So they're just very brief, but I will talk through some examples for that. So let's look at it. Our first type of structure is called chronological. So we're going to talk about the kinds of organization that we have. So your first note, I just need you to write chronological. Chronological means time, sequence of events. This is like if you're telling this awesome story of you going ding dong ditching this weekend, and you start with, first you're zipping up your hoodie and you're feeling, the chill cut through the seams of your little hoodie there, and you're approaching that house and you see that glowing doorbell and you feel your heart hammering in your chest and you whisper to your friend, dude, you do it now. Okay. Anyway, so I'm telling the story. I'm telling the story in order of time. So your note just needs it, as I have at the top here, chronological is sequence of events, time. You only need to write what I have in blue. So as you jot that down, I'm going to give you an example of what is chronological organization. It's like telling a story. It seemed like an ordinary day when she got up that morning, but Gertie was about to embark on one of the most mortifying days of her life. First, she tripped over a stray binder in the 7th grade hallway, smashing into her crush Sam. Giving her a horrified reaction, he bellowed, "Ew, you have something in your teeth." When she put her hand to her mouth, Gertie realized that some breakfast sausage had become snagged, dangling grotesquely from her braces. Frantically, she scurried away and arrived at her locker. Ring! The 1-minute warning bell sounded, so Gertie snatched her pencil case and slammed her locker shut. She reached down to retrieve her textbook from the floor and heard an explosive roar of laughter. In her haste, she had shut her skirt in the locker door, only to moon the entire hallway when she bent over. Cheeks burning in humiliation, Gertie finally stumbled to class, feeling like a prize idiot. Okay. So, chronological, sequence of events, time. All of the things that happened in Gertie's poor little series of unfortunate events. She tripped over a binder. She slammed into her crush. He was grossed out by, something nasty in her braces. She was late. She had hurried to her locker. She shut her skirt into it. She bent over, and everyone saw her little bum bum. Okay? Chronological sequence of events. We will do this kind of writing when you write an essay called Taking a Risk, about a moment, like your first time getting up on water skis. Whatever is a risky event in your life. Lots of examples for that later. Okay, point number 2 in your notes. So below chronological, I would like you to just write this. Order of importance equals or colon or dash reasons. All you need to write is what I have in blue. We're going to use order of importance a lot when we do different types of argumentative essays, and we're trying to convince our audience why this is really important. For example, we'll do one on bugs, why we need to seek out alternative protein sources in America besides just our juicy, fatty steaks. Crickets. Here's an example. Smoking cigarettes is a dangerous waste of money, time, and health. In the first place, the habit is expensive, with a single pack well over $5. The pack-a-day smoker spends over $2,000 per year. Second, the habit is smelly and unpleasant, offending many people who are forced to endure others' smoking. It wastes time, both the time people spend on their ciggy breaks and the time lost due to respiratory ailments. Worst of all, it's a killer. Causes heart disease, emphysema, lung cancer. It isn't a contributing factor, it's the sole cause. So in this one, when you're using order of importance, you kind of hit them with a reason that you feel is strong, and maybe you put a weaker one or a weaker two in the middle, but you end strong. So this one is like, Grandma, you got to give up the cancer sticks. It's expensive. Second of all, you smell bad. And last of all, you could die. Okay, so you build up to your hardest hitting reason last. Like, if we're going to write an argumentative piece and send it to Mr. Amaral about why we should be allowed to wear hats in school, we might start with something like, it's a fun fashion statement. Kids will feel happier and more confident if they get to wear hats. Second, Mr. Amaral, it'll help control the widespread lice epidemic that we have raging for the 7th grade wing. We don't, but anyway. And lastly, Mr. Amaral, hats will help kids have perfect attendance. They will no longer have lost days of school due to bad hair days and not wanting to come. So you build up to your most important reason. We'll use this a lot. In fact, you're going to use this tomorrow when we talk about name brand clothing. What are your top 2 reasons? Okay, third note is this. Compare and contrast equals similarities and differences. So if I'm comparing Pizza Hut to Domino's, right? Price, crust, sauce flavor, right? Different toppings, different specials that they have. Here's an example. In considering a family pet, both a poodle and a St. Bernard would make an excellent addition to your family. However, they are different. Poodles are active and happy. On the other hand, Saints are usually so gentle and lovable, they're hard to resist. Poodles you can keep inside because they're small, clean, and easily trained. In contrast, Saints are outdoor dogs because of their size, their long hair, their slobber. Differing from poodles, well-trained Saints can add great protection to a household. So a poodle would be good as a simple companion. A Saint would make an excellent guardian. So they're both dogs, and they both would be awesome for a family, but looking at how they're alike and how they're different. Compare and contrast. So if you're talking about, two different sports teams and comparing, contrasting their offensive lineup or their defensive line, we hear this a lot, like on ESPN and Sports Center. Or you're comparing two different ski resorts, or you're talking about two different musical artists and their style or their influence or their songs or their awards, which is fun. Okay, getting there, we have spatial. So it's a funny looking word, spatial. So think about space. And what spatial organization is the order of appearance. So simply write spatial appearance. You hear this all the time on like HGTV, and realtors use this when they're describing a house and they go to the entryway and it opens up to a sprawling great room with floor to ceiling windows for natural light. And then they talk about, the beautiful wide trim and, the hardwood floor, blah, blah, blah. You just did this in the messy room. You walked into a room, you described what you saw. People who are trying to sell something, they describe the product, right? So if you're trying to tell your mom about this new longboard that you want, and you're talking about, the deck, and then maybe the wheels, the bearings, all of that, what something looks like. We might see this in a news report after a horrible hurricane has ravaged a town or a city. I couldn't believe my eyes. We finally emerged from the storm shelter. Where the barn once stood, there was now only a few tufts of hay. The path that led to the house was scattered with branches and debris. The house? The entire roof was gone. The north wall was caved in. We could see right into the house. Well, what was left of it? Tears rolled down my cheeks as I noticed that most of our belongings, they'd been sucked up into the great vacuum and scattered across the countryside. We heard a loud cracking and moaning as the west wall gave way and collapsed, sending up a wave of dust. And yet, there in the middle of the front yard was Mom's prized rose bush. Okay, so the words they use here are like north, west, east, as you describe something, the way, the space, the layout. Okay, our final two. This one just put cause and effect. And what is that? Cause and effect is an action and then the results. And it can be good or bad. For example, if you have headaches, they can have several disruptive effects on a person's life. So they're more than just a temporary inconvenience. Oftentimes, headaches make a person nauseous to the point they have to go to bed. And unfortunately, sleep is interrupted because of the pain. Consequently, this worsens the physical and emotional state of the sufferer. For those who try to maintain a normal lifestyle, drugs are relied on to get through the day. And those drugs can be strong, causing negative side effects. As a result, productivity on a job can be reduced, blah, blah, blah. So it's this happened, and then these are the effects. So this could be a lot of things. Okay, so you started doing yoga. What are the cool effects? Okay, now I feel more calm. I feel more centered. I'm not screaming at my kids as much. Okay, so there's one. Two, I feel more flexible and limber, right? I'm trying to do different household tasks or stacking wood. This yoga has really made me feel more springy. Okay, so you do something, and these are either the benefits or the drawbacks as a result of that cause and effect. And the last one, we made it, problem and solution. So you have this issue. What can we do about it? Example, astronauts face many problems in space caused by weightlessness. One of these problems is floating around the cabin. To solve this, astronauts wear shoes that are coated with a special adhesive. The adhesive sticks to the floor of the cabin. Serving food is another problem, but it won't stay put on the table, so experts solve this by putting food and drinks in pouches and tubes, blah, blah, blah. Problem, we have a pandemic, right? Coronavirus. How can we go to school and maintain education but be safe? So we have a couple different solutions to that. One, we are operating in crews. So we only have 18 to 20 kids or so per class to minimize exposure. Second, we are using masks to minimize exposure. Third, we're offering a virtual option with teachers delivering their instruction through video. We are not traveling in the hallways and being around 300 plus individuals, right? We're getting all of our educational needs met in our crew classroom. Problem, solution. So those are your quick notes, and I'm not going to be jabbering at you for much longer. If you missed any of them, I'm going to put this slide up, and teachers, you may pause, and this is all you need in your notes. You will see these kinds of questions high stakes standardized tests, like what structure is the author using? Is it chronological time, compare, contrast? So I will pause and go ahead. Okay, so it's time to test out what you know. Quiz time. You may use your notes for this. In Google Classroom today, we have Quiz Is. Quiz is not graded. It's a practice for you. I do get feedback from it and I can see how you're doing. So if you go to Google Classroom, our post is called Organizational Structures in Writing under Classwork, and you'll click on Quizzes. And you shouldn't have to do like a login or anything. And I just practiced a little bit earlier, so you put in your name, or it might recognize your name, and you start the game. And it's going to give you an example paragraph or a piece of writing, and you have to identify what kind of structure it is. Is it compare contrast, chronological, problem solution? And then a little funny meme will pop up if you get it right, if you get it wrong, blah, blah, blah. So find Quizzes, play. It's only 10 questions, and I'll meet you right back. We're going to talk about school uniforms. Hey. And we're back.